What up, though? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where six guys from around the British Isles come together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I am joined by Ryan McCluskey this evening, which can only mean one thing. It's another week of college football, and you might notice a little bit of a difference this weekend. Usually, we pre-record these under no pressure whatsoever, and they come out a few hours later and everything goes smoothly. Well, this week is the one week we have decided to go live. So welcome to anyone who's joining us. We appreciate the support, and hopefully you enjoy being live with us this week. So, bear with us. There may be some teething problems, but hopefully this is going to pass without too many issues. But as I say, this is the college football podcast. This is episode 9. I can't believe we are already at this. It seems only a minute ago since we started this. This week we are going to be taking a look through some news. There's been some more head coach firings this weekend. We are going to be doing a half-season mock draft. We're going to be looking at week 7 of the college football season, and we're going to be taking a look at week 8. But before we do any of that, I'm going to introduce my colleague for this evening, Ryan McCluskey. Please go easy on him this evening. He's had a little bit of a tough sporting weekend here in college football, NFL, and football. Ryan, how are you doing this week?
I'm still recovering. The football polished off a bad weekend last night. 3 losses in a row. It's just, I do this to myself. We choose these teams, well, where you're born usually chooses the team for you, but I just put myself through the grind every week, and it's just, it was not pretty in any aspect of the 3 games, but I dusted myself off, dusted myself down, and we just go again.
Absolutely, and I mean, if there's any way that we're going to improve the mood around here a bit, especially as Lions fans, it's talking about a good dose of college football, because, once again, we've been treated to an absolutely great weekend of action. There's an awful lot to talk about, and as I say, we're going to start looking at some of these players of the future today. We're going to look at our mock drafts, see how they stack at the end of the season. So without further ado, and hopefully with everything running smoothly, I've not been told otherwise by Matthew yet, we will crack on. So yeah, we're going to drop straight down into the news, and after a few quiet weeks in terms of the head coach fronts, the ones who were on the edge a bit, no one has lost their jobs, but that has changed this weekend. We have had 2 head coaching casualties. The first one is a really big one as well. So LSU, 18 months ago, winning the national championship, they had a team with the likes of Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson. They were destroying everyone and anyone in their path. A mere 18 months later, their head coach, Ed Orgeron, he is leaving his position. He will be staying on till the end of the season, but when it's over, there's going to be a head coach change there. Last season, after the draft really robbed them of a lot of talent, they went 5-5. It wasn't the greatest season ever. They finished 4th in the SEC West. And this season, they're currently sat 5th with a 4-3 record, and they are only 2-2 within the division. His fall from grace has been exacerbated by a lot of issues. It's not just been results on the field, but he's made some bad coordinator hires since he lost his coordinators. Obviously, during the championship year, they went on to bigger and better things. The new guys he's brought in have been poor. He's been fumbling on social justice issues. There's legal allegations roaming around LSU as well, which he apparently mishandled, and he's been making a lot of public outbursts, which left the administrators questioning whether he was the right man to lead the program, and they've eventually decided to pull the plug on him. Ryan, this is one that you wouldn't have seen coming 18 months ago after such a dominant win, of the championship back then with such a great team as well.
No, like you say, it's a heavy fall from grace for Louisiana State and the head coach. And it's a funny one, because you see reports on Twitter that when they were winning games, they overlooked things. There's rumours and reports that his family would come to practice. There were kids, his partner, that would join in with drills, lightheartedness. And when you're winning, everything's cushy. It's all hunky-dory. You can overlook these kind of things. But things aren't going so well now. And these things have actually come back to bite him in the ass a little. Pardon my French, like say it, like they're now using things against him, like say issues off the field. Now, I'm not like I feel sorry for the guy. Like you say, he lost all that talent to the draft, didn't have a ready quarterback replacement, and then injuries have just crippled them this year. To lose your star wide receiver and lose both your starting high-ranking corners, it feels like everyone's give up on this team. And if I'm being honest, they've been very generous to give him to the end of the season and let him see out his duties. Some would have got rid of him now, but like I say, there aren't any coordinators that can step in. He's the only hope of them getting bowl eligible. But like I say, they've got a list the size of their arm of people that want this job. It's a high-profile job, and like they'll be bringing in interviews very quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see who they come and take over. Like I say, and can reload the talent because they're going to have to find some recruitment from somewhere. So it's got to be the right name.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, he's already rejected that. I know he has a lot of pull with the guys in power there, but he's on a huge deal down there. You wouldn't expect him to give that up easy. Plus, that team, when it has a quarterback, is in a pretty decent position. I know there's been talk about Mel Tucker. I think it's Mel Tucker at Michigan State. You know, he's really turned that franchise around really quickly, and I know they're looking at him. And then James Franklin, I guess, Penn State as well. He's going to be the in-demand guy at the end of this year. He's going to have his opportunity of all the jobs, isn't he? That's going to be fun for him. But it remains interesting to see what they do, and we'll see what happens. Like you say, it's a big deal, and the ironic thing is this weekend they actually won. You know, you get fired after a win, was it a road win? It was a home win against a ranked side. And the irony of that is the team they beat, that coach is probably now on the hottest seat in the SEC now that he's gone. So that could probably trigger another move in the upcoming weeks, I guess. But again, it's something we'll wait and see what happens with. To anyone who is watching us, if you are putting messages in YouTube, Twitch, etc., we are watching. It's just I'm trying to make sure the stream runs alright at the minute. I will get back round to responding to you, so keep your comments coming in and we will get to you there. So yeah, that's the first of the head coaching changes. The second one this week, which is for a bit of a different reason, Washington State, they have relieved their head coach Nick Rolovich of his duties, but this is down to his refusal to take the COVID vaccine, a fate that was also shared by 4 of his assistants. All 5 of them have been relieved of their duties. He had applied for an exemption on religious grounds, but this was rejected by the university, and it's just come out recently. I was seeing on Twitter that he's planning on suing them now. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there, because obviously COVID vaccine, so much debate around that at the minute, whether you have it or not. But I believe he's a public servant there or something, and they make the rules and you have to follow them. But, you know, Washington State, they're currently on a 3-game winning streak, so we've lost 2 coaches this week, both on winning teams. I don't think it's very often that we'd be able to say something like that.
No, it's very odd. Like I said, this is a case whereas like he wasn't an employee of the university. Like I said, they're saying in the state of like say Washington that these civil servants were given a deadline where they had to have I think at least 1 dose, and him and his coaching like say assistants, they put their foot down. They didn't want to get it, and unfortunately the day came and they probably didn't think they would follow through with it. But like I say, they've all been relieved of their duties. Now it's going to go legal. Do they have grounds on? Like say, this could get very ugly, and this could set a dangerous precedent because there must be states out there that have also set guidelines for civil servants. So there must be a lot of coaches. We know a lot of players like that are against the vaccine, but you can't force them to have it. So is it fair to terminate employment? This one's going to get ugly, and it's going to get a lot of highlights. This won't be the end of what we hear it, like you say. And they're up against my boys next. They're on a 3-game winning streak, like say Washington State. So we'll see how this affects the players. Will this affect them mentally? Will they be upset? Will they be hurt? They might very well be pissed off, and they're going to want to play for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's a situation that's going to be quite fluid anyhow, and we will see what happens in regards to it. But as I say, it's very rarely that you're going to find a week where 2 coaches get fired, especially both on the back of wins. That's just something that doesn't really happen. But anyhow, we'll move it on. We're going to take a look at the Power 25 rankings, the Associated Press ones that we use. Now, 2 weeks ago was the week of many upsets, we dubbed it, because 9 of the top 25 were defeated. Last week was the week of the upset, because Alabama got taken down. We're back to the week of many upsets again. 7 of the top 25 teams were defeated this week. Sorry, Ryan. Including a top 2 team as well, and 5 ranked teams getting upset by unranked opponents. As quite frankly, this crazy season continues. Being a ranked team means nothing anymore. You're just as vulnerable as if you're an unranked side. And in the undefeated stakes, we were at 13 teams last week. 2 of them have fallen, so only 11 remain. But Georgia are sitting pretty at the top of the rankings, far and away the best team in college football at this moment in time. They're 7-0. No one's really near them. Cincinnati, the Bearcats, they move up to 2nd. Oklahoma, the Sooners, they've moved up to 3rd. Then you've got Alabama, Ohio State. The Michigan Wolverines, even though they didn't play, have moved from 8th to 6th. Penn State are 7th. Oklahoma State have moved up as far as 8. Michigan State follow them in 9. Oregon a 10th to round out the top 10. And then just to look at some of the new teams in there this week. Auburn have returned. They are in 19th. Baylor have also returned. They are in 20th. They both beat ranked sides. There's a first appearance of the season in there for Kenny Pickett and his Pittsburgh side. They are 23rd. There is a first ever appearance in franchise history for the University of Texas San Antonio. They are 24th. That is the first time they've ever been in there. And Purdue have snuck into 25th after a game that we are going to be talking a lot about this evening. What do you have to make about the rankings this week, Ryan? No one is safe, are they?
No, like say, look at the huge jump for Cincinnati. Like say, Iowa, like say, they sunk like a stone. I'm not going to be funny, but Purdue don't deserve to be there. There's Air Force that are 6-1. There's teams that are miles better than Purdue. That feels like a bit of a sympathy vote in 25th. So I'm pretty sure they've only got 4 or 5 wins. Like, I don't rate that rating. Auburn, don't rate Auburn, but Bo Nix, like I say, he's very up and down. They're a very up and down team. It's a very generous rating. Oklahoma State, like they got a huge win. They capitalised on a team that was licking their wounds, and like I say, they held their nerve. So they're pretty rising nicely. Like I say, there's a few teams there that, like I say, Baylor have really flown under the radar. They got another big win this week, like I say, and no one's been talking about them for weeks now, but like I said, they're a strong undefeated side.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the other undefeated teams still in there. You've got SMU in there, 21st, San Diego State, they're 22nd. Further up, you've got Coastal Carolina. They're sneaking ever so closely towards the top 10. They are 14th. But it's just really interesting to see what's going off there because, as I say, so many ranked teams have fallen this year, and it feels like it's not more so than it's a lot more so than usual, but yeah, they're the top 25. No doubt they're going to change a hell of a lot again by next week as well. You mentioned bowl eligibility a bit earlier. I've just had a little look through teams who are bowl eligible. So basically, to become a bowl eligible team, the bowls are the big games at the end of the year. You know, the platform where a lot of the players like to shine on because they're usually quite big games. You need 6 wins to be able to be eligible for those, and currently there's about 13 teams who are already up there. So in the ACC you've got Wake Forest, in the All-American Conference you've got Cincinnati and SMU, in the Big Ten you've got Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, the Big 12 you've got Baylor, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. In the CUSA you've got the University of Texas El Paso and the University of Texas San Antonio. No teams in the MAC so far reached 6 wins. In the Mountain West, you've got Air Force, the service team. They've done really well. San Diego State. Nobody from the Pac-12, but that's a really competitive division. We'll talk about that in a bit. From the SEC, you've got Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky. And then in the Sun Belt, you've got one team. You've got Coastal Carolina. These are teams who are all now eligible for a bowl game this year. And just in one other little bit, UConn, the team we talked about last week, they're the only team who can't get into a bowl now because they've been that bad that even at the halfway point of the season, they've already been ruled out. Although they won this weekend for the first time in 2 years. So that's a great thing for them. But I just want to focus on one team in there because it's a little bit of a feel-good story, which we'll end the news with. So the University of Texas and El Paso Miners, they were ranked the top of the worst FBS teams in the power rankings in 2017 and 2018. So like the top 25 good sides, they have a top 25 for bad teams. And in 2017 and 2018, these were at the top. They were that bad they couldn't buy a win from anywhere. But this year, after just 7 games, they are already eligible. They're 6-1. They had a great 19-3 win against Louisiana Tech this weekend, which, if it doesn't, you might not have heard of these two teams, but Louisiana Tech were more than a touchdown favourite for this one. They got 21 touchdowns in 5 games. They were held to just 3 points. It's their lowest score ever since joining the CUSA in 2013. And Louisiana have put up 27 points on North Carolina State. They put up on 37 on SMU. These are both ranked sides. This is not a bad team, and they were shut out by UTEP. I mean, this has been such a remarkable turnaround by Dana DeMel, who's the coach there, and it's great to see little feel-good stories about these small college sides which come through all the adversity. And I mean, they've got a big game potentially on the horizon now.
Yeah, like I say, it's a very interesting season because look at the state of Texas. Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, they're nowhere to be seen. They're having really up and down years, and then you've got the likes, like say, Texas, you've got El Paso, you've got UTSA, the San Antonio. These two are actually the cream of the crop right now, carrying the flag for the state of Texas. Like say, locking up a bowl game. Every win now after this, like say, gets them a little bit better. Like say, bowl games, they have stipulations, how many wins you get, what position you finish in your conference, which one you get. So there are, let's say, more nationally televised ones. So let's say one of them could get a really big game on TV, like say, and it's just great. Like say, it's been coming. It's taken 3 years to build this far. They've recruited well. Like say, they've got in those like 2, 3, 4 stars, like some of the bigger names in franchise history. Like it's paid off. Like say, they can't be written off anymore, and they'll just enjoy this now because, like say, all the hard work's done. Teams have underestimated them. Like I say, they can hopefully now have a strong end to the year, try and get 9-10 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I say it's good to see these teams in there. I mean, to see a service team in there as well for Air Force, I mean, you don't really see the service teams doing so well, but I mean, they've all been causing upsets this year, haven't they?
They have, yeah, like I say, the service teams are, they're funny, they're difficult, like you say, because they follow these, a lot of them follow this same, they run the triple option, they're very run heavy. Like they kill the clock. They're not known for passing. I mean, like Navy, Army, Air Force. These are run first, run downhill, 3 down teams. And like I say, they catch people out because they can be really hard to stop because they control the clock really well. And if anything comes with like being from like the forces, they're disciplined. They don't get many penalties. They clear their formations well. They're just very simple but well-run teams. And like I say, these guys stay around because they're in service. They don't all go to the NFL. A lot of them will go right through their senior year. So they've got very experience, like on their offensive lines. And like I say, they play some good football. It's not always the prettiest, but they're very effective at what they do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great for the game when they are able to upset some of the bigger teams from the bigger conferences. But yeah, that's a little look into the bowl eligible teams at the minute. Obviously, we'll keep an eye as we go along. But a few who you might not have expected to be there this quick into the season have already made it. So that's everything for the news really this week. I'm just going to take a quick dive down into the injury corner. Thankfully this week, having looked through everything, injuries seem to have been down at a minimum. Obviously you get the wear and tear that you have during a season, but the bad ones seem to have been down at a minimum. But the one that did catch my eye, we talked about the Miami Hurricanes last week. They're having an absolutely rotten season. They're losing commits to next year. They've lost a lot of games. They've lost Eric King for the season. Well, this weekend has just got even worse for them because once again they've lost. We're going to talk about that game later because it was an absolute barnstormer in fairness, and one that we did highlight last week which could be a low-key great game. But not only that, but they've now lost their starting running back Cam Harris for the season. He suffered a right knee injury. He had 528 all-purpose yards and 6 touchdowns this season, so he's been quite productive over 6 games, and this is now officially Miami's worst start to a season in about 2 decades. I read somewhere. It's not getting any easier for them at all. They're one of the teams this year, like LSU, who've just suffered so much through the injury bug.
Yeah, I watched this game that we're going to talk about. They've got a freshman quarterback that's just been thrown in Van Dyke, and he put a performance in. He played his ass off. They were so unlucky. Like it was a thrilling game, like you say. And a freshman quarterback needs an experienced run game. He needs a running back that he can rely on and be dependable to take the pressure off him. And now that's gone too. Like I don't know if Miami are going to win another game this year, like because they have lost so many guys. Like they're down to a freshman quarterback and Will Mallory, the tight end. That's kind of the only real sparks they've got on offense. The defense has just been woeful. They have just been shedding yards and points for fun. Like I say, this is just another one. Like I say, it's a seat that's just getting even hotter. Like I say, when you can't afford injuries when you're losing this many games, it just makes the position untenable almost.
No, it is sad to see. They had such high expectations coming into this season, and yeah, like you say, it's pretty much a lost season now, and they're going to have to reload and go again. But speaking of the games, we'll move straight into that now. So we're already reviewing week 7 of the season. This seems to have gone by so quickly this week. As usual, I'll just quickly hand out some of the awards, we'll discuss those, and then we'll move down into some of the games themselves. So the beating of the week this week, handed out to the team who wins by the most points in a game. It's a small one by comparisons this week. This goes to the Virginia Cavaliers. They won 48-0 over Duke, so that is a 48-point margin of victory. The upset of the week. Now, this could, when 5 ranked teams are knocked down by unranked teams, this could go in any one of a number of directions, but not many people saw this one coming, I don't think, and that is Purdue. They won 24-7 over number 2 ranked Iowa. Now, like I say, this might go down as, well, this is a huge upset, but if you actually look through their history, there's a very interesting stat and a record that Purdue have built on this week. This is the 9th time in their history that they have been unranked and they have taken down a top 2 ranked team. So 9 times they've been unranked and they've beaten one of the top 2 teams in college football. Just to put it into perspective, the next team, I don't know who they were because I didn't read on far enough, has done this 4 times. So by far and away, if you see Purdue playing a number 2 ranked team or a top 2 ranked team and they're unranked, put your money on the upset, because that's a lot of times to do something like that. But yeah, that's a huge result for Purdue, and Iowa's season has now been thrown into a little bit of turmoil on the back of this. And then the statement win of the week. Again, this could go in one of many directions, but I've given this to Oklahoma State. They beat the Texas Longhorns 32-24, but they were in a huge hole at one point, and the game looked like it might be getting away from them, but they defied all expectations. They came back. They won the game out quite easy. This was a ranked-on-ranked fixture, and they've now solidified themselves in the top 10, sending out a statement that they are not going to roll over and be beaten. If teams are looking for an easy target up in the high-ranked sides to beat, it ain't going to be them. Any disagreement there, Ryan, or are they about spot on this week?
No, I'd say they're about spot on. Anyone that's watched any of the episodes of the previous weeks knows that we've said Iowa were maybe potentially fraudulent because that offense, it just couldn't be trusted. We knew Spencer Petras was a bang average quarterback, and that if his team could not get turnovers and give him a short field, he could not get it done. And like I say, just like that, it just reared its ugly head, didn't it? They just proved us right. Like I say, that offense cannot compete with the top teams in college football. They struggled to move the ball. The defense didn't get the turnovers, and Mr. Bell had an absolute field day because their top cornerback was out, who I'm going to speak about later, and they put their best guy on the cover replacement, and like I say, they just went to town. Like I say, their quarterback, O'Connor, had a monster day. Like I say, I think he threw for nearly 400 yards, and David Bell just put up some ridiculous numbers and just showed why he's one of the leading receivers going into 2022 draft.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, what we'll do then, we'll dive down into the game reviews, and let's start with Purdue and Iowa. So obviously coming into this, Iowa ranked number 2, They got one of the most fearsome defenses in the entire country, by far and away leading in takeaways. It seems every week that they seem to get 5 or 6 interceptions, fumbles, etc. Coming up against tiny old unranked Purdue, and they just get absolutely blown out the water. I'll go through some of the stats here. So you mentioned Aidan O'Connell, the Purdue quarterback. He threw 30 of 40 for 375 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he got himself a rushing touchdown. They didn't really do much in the running game. King Doru, he went 18 for 48, 2.7 yards per carry. Didn't really do much, but they saw that fearsome defense and you thought, you know what, we're just going to go straight over it. In the receiving game, David Bell, 11 receptions for 240 yards and a touchdown. That's a huge effort from him. And also TJ Sheffield, one of the other wide receivers, he went 8 for 48 and 1 touchdown. And their defense, I mean, I was looking through everything. I could list them all here. There were so many contributors on there, but some of the main guys. Their defensive tackle, Branson Dean, 2 solo tackles, 3 assisted tackles, 1.5 sacks. The safety, Cameron Allen, 2 solo tackles, 2 assisted tackles, 2 interceptions of Spencer Petras. And then finally, I leave the best till last. It's the edge, George Karlaftis. And you're going to be hearing about him later from me. But he had over 10 pressures against the Iowa offensive line, and he got himself a sack as well. To put into perspective, this is the first time that any edge rusher has gotten over 10 pressures against an Iowa offensive line since PFF College started doing their college grades back in 2014. So that's nearly 7 years ago. No one has had as much success against them as he did. On Iowa's side, it was just an absolute mess. Spencer Petras, the quarterback, 17 of 32, 195 yards, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions thrown. Tyler Goodson, the running back, he's had a really good year, but they kept him quiet. 12 carries for 68 yards because they had to get away from the run and try and throw their way back into it, which they couldn't. Sam Laporta, the tight end, he led receptions. He was 5 for 61. Keegan Johnson, the wide receiver, was 2 for 50, but no one else got over 30 yards. And on the defense, linebacker Seth Benson, 10 solo tackles, 2 assists. The only sack they got on Purdue. I mean, you said it there. That offense really got found out here, and Purdue's defense, I think, is maybe slightly underrated, but it's got so many playmakers on there. They just starved the life out of Iowa, and they passed over that fearsome defense. They just said, right, we're just going to go over you. We're not going to go through you. We know what your strengths are. And what a win for Purdue.
Yeah, they're believed to be one of the, the weaker teams, in their conference. A lot of people think actually they're whipping boys sometimes each year. They look at them and get a cheap win. They showed no fear. They went straight after one of probably the best secondary in probably college football. They produced turnovers, but they were not scared. David Bell shredded them. He just found himself open and open time and time after again. He proved himself to be an incredibly savvy route runner. O'Connell trusts him. He was just slinging it out there, and they really took it to him. When it got down to it, the clock, Iowa was scoring, Iowa conceding that fast, that the offense was on the field way too long. And that is just a stagnant offense. They don't want to be on the field that long, because it leads to mistakes. He should have been benched well before in 4 interceptions, but they don't have much of a way in a plan B. They're very much a one-dimensional team that once the things don't go their way, it's hard to steer away from it. And they were allowed boos. I watched the game. It got really ugly. I don't know where they go from here. On their schedule, on their resume, this is going to look really bad at the end of the year. This is really difficult because, they're in the most competitive conference as well. So many teams that are 1 loss or undefeated that this one little blip could have huge ramifications on their season.
Well, the thing is, it's let Ohio State, sorry, back into the conversation now. The defeats there, I think that puts Ohio State back into consideration for the playoffs. So they've wasted an opportunity for sure. But fair play to Purdue. No one saw this coming. They came out and they played an excellent game, and it was great to watch. So we'll see what happens with Iowa moving forward. Now, going on from a team that's really done, had a really good weekend, to a team that continues to struggle, a former powerhouse. Now, I highlighted this as a game where I thought there might be an upset, if you can call it one, this coming weekend, and that's Clemson. Clemson are having a really bad year at the moment. I mean, the standings may not say otherwise, but they were playing Syracuse, and it ended Clemson 17, Syracuse 14. It was a low-scoring game, a lot of defense, a lot of offense that just couldn't get functioning. But I had a little look at Clemson's record today. They've played 6 games this year, 5 games against FBS teams, 1 game against an FCS side. They put up 49 points in that one. But in the 5 games against FBS teams, the most points they've scored in one game is 21. You don't expect to see that from a Clemson side. They've not even passed 20 points 4 times. Now, you look back to the draft, I think they're suffering like LSU did from a really bad exodus of talent in a draft. Obviously, you've got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. They've lost Travis Etienne at running back, who I think they're missing more than anybody. That's been painfully obvious. The running game struggled a lot this year. So you've got Jackson Carman, the left tackle there. We played against him at the weekend. He was with the Bengals. Maybe not the greatest guard in the NFL, but he was a really solid left tackle in college. And then you've got the wide receivers, Amari Rogers, Cornell Powell. They both had years last year. They racked up the yards, all gone in one go, and they're struggling to find their rhythm at the minute. And DJ Uangalele, who I was really high on at the start of this season, has just not been able to settle. Just to go through it. So DJ, he was 21 of 34, 181 yards and 1 touchdown, 26 rushing yards, but nothing that jumps off the page. In the running back game, Kobe Pryor, 14 for 76 and a touchdown, 5 yards per carry, and Phil Major, 9 reception carries for 30 yards. So again, not a great deal going on in the run game. And then receiving, Justin Ross, he got 5 for 51. Davis Allen, the tight end, got 8 for 49, and Joseph Ngata, 1 reception, 19 yards and a touchdown. But that offense has not reloaded from this year, and it's showing on the pitch, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Clemson looked awful this year. That offense is just, it looks terrible. Like I say, they're shooting themselves in the foot all the time. They're getting flags, and they just don't look confident. DJ just looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't, like I said, the receivers don't always look like they know what they're. Justin Ross is supposed to be a leader among men, that he plays like he's nervous and scared because, like I say, he had that fused spine. He's not been the same since the injury. He might not be the same again. Like I say, Will Shipley, their star free running back, he's out for another few weeks. They don't know if they're going to get him back. This is just a team that is just, like I say, it's misfiring. It's just not working offense. They had a fantastic day on defense. They got James Skolsky back, their star linebacker. Him and Spector, those two were absolutely flying around, smashing in tackles. Like, their defense did a really good job. Like I say, the offense could just not move the ball. They were so lucky to get over the line on that one. Syracuse, like I say, really missed a chance there. They should have probably, if they'd been more clinical, got a steal and win there. But right now is a great time for anyone to play Clemson. Because, like I say, they're just a team devoid of any confidence. And people that say Dabo Swin is not under any pressure, like, that he is. He's got to be under pressure because right now this program, it doesn't look healthy. It doesn't look like it's got a direction. And they need to turn this season around if they're going to get even bowl eligibility, because they are sinking like a stone.
Yeah, and you touched on it a little there. The offense has been struggling, but they've only put up over 20 points twice, but they've got 4 wins. So that obviously means the defense is pulling its weight on there. And you mentioned 2 guys there. They're ones I've got down here. So the linebackers, Balin Spector, he got 9 solo tackles and an assist in this one. Over just 5 games this year, he's got 44 tackles already, 1.5 for loss, a sack, an interception, 2 passes defended. He's been really, really busy in the centre of the field there. Tyler Venables, the safety in this one, he got 4 tackles, a sack, and an interception. And James Skolsky, the 6-year linebacker, the leader of that defence, he chipped in with 6 tackles, half a sack as well. They're really busy there, but the one thing they did that won them this game is they kept Garrett Schrader quiet. So Garrett Schrader is the quarterback for Syracuse. His passing yards, he was 17 for 37, 191 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and he got a rush touchdown. But Garrett Schrader's not a thrower. He's not great at throwing the ball and leading a team downfield. He is based on his dual threat rushing ability. And if we've ever mentioned a Syracuse game this year and gone through it, you'll have heard Garrett, he runs in the high hundreds of yards per game. That's literally what he's based on. A lot of weeks he'll run more than he throws, but this time he managed 6 rushing yards. That was it. They managed to completely and utterly eliminate him from the running game, which meant that Syracuse's offense couldn't function properly. They did have some success in the running game. Sean Tucker, the running back, he went 22 carries for 157 yards, but then in the passing game, Trebor Pena, he got 1 reception for 62 yards and a touchdown, but no one else got over 30 yards. They couldn't get anything going there. If Syracuse had a quarterback who could throw, they'd have won this game, I believe. It was just because they shut Schrader down from doing what he does that they didn't have a third defeat already. I think that's a fair summarization of that one, don't you think? Because, yeah, Clemson just didn't come to the show and they were there to be had.
Yeah, like you say, their ability to keep Schrader in the pocket is what won them the game. Those linebackers were so busy. If he could throw the ball, he would have avoided the middle of the field completely. That's where Clemson are dangerous. He'd have picked on the corners, but like I say, they weren't able to do that. And like I say, I'll give mad props to Sean Tucker. He is the 2nd leading rusher in the entire nation, and I did not know that. He is having a monster year, and it doesn't even get recognised. Because Syracuse aren't great, but he is carrying them completely, and he's been a star.
See, the thing is, we never mention him, because if we ever mention the lead rusher for Syracuse, it's the quarterback, but he still might have 100 yards and he's 2nd, so it's just one of those weird little things to see. But in terms of Syracuse, their defense did good as well. That obviously we've got Ife Melifonwu, who was there last year. They produce good quality defenders from Syracuse. The one to keep an eye out on this year, the All-ACC linebacker Mikel Jones. He had a busy game, 10 solo tackles, an assisted tackle. He got a tackle for loss and he got a hit on DJ as well. So he's having a really good year and he's one to look out for. But we'll move it on now. So we've had a team that has done really well. We had a team that is struggling, but now we're going to look at a certain player. And this is one of the big headlines going into this weekend. Presumptive #1 pick for the draft at the start of this year, Spencer Rattler, got benched by Oklahoma after they'd apparently seen enough of him. I don't know what's gone off there, but Caleb Williams' name was getting called. He replaced him last week and led Oklahoma to a come-from-behind victory against the Texas Longhorns. A very impressive performance, and he got the start this weekend against TCU, and we wondered how he was going to get on. Was he going to have a great game? Was he going to potentially keep Rattler benched for the year? Or was he going to was he going to go under the lights and maybe wilt a little? Because TCU are a good opponent. Now, if you don't watch too much college football, if you can find a game and it involves TCU, they are the games to watch. In their last 4 games alone, the points tallies from their games are 76, 59, 83, and 83. They are games that are not short of points, and they are offensively, just really forward-thinking and good to watch. Last week, they won 52-31 against Texas Tech. Well, this week, they had the scoreline reversed on them. Caleb Williams did have a good day, and Oklahoma came out 52-31 winners against TCU. They kept them at arm's length for the majority of the contest, and while it was fun to watch, there was never any doubt in which way the result was going. Caleb Williams, his first ever start, he went 18 of 23, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he also rushed for 66 yards and a rushing touchdown. his second one because he had one last week as well. In the running game, Kennedy Brooks, he went 20 for 153 and a touchdown. Eric Gray, the other running back, he got a touchdown as well. And then in the receiving game, the day belonged to Jaden Hazelwood. He went 6 for 56 with 3 touchdowns. The defense is still a little bit of a concern. They still gave up over 30 points again. No sacks, no interceptions, but offensively, Oklahoma, they had a day to remember, and Spencer Rattler, he's going to have to start looking at the transfer portal very soon if Williams keeps up this level of performance.
He will. He already is. I am pretty much resigned to Spencer Rattler will not be entering the 2022 draft. He will be returning for his final year, and he will be transferring because unless something goes terribly wrong, he is not going to play for Oklahoma again this season, most likely. Caleb Williams, like say, it was a big stage. Like say, TCU are a good side and can score quickly. Like say, he showed up when it mattered. Like say, all eyes were on him. He put in a really composed performance at like 88% completion, so he didn't have to do too much on offense. His throws were very efficient and clean. Like say, he found his favorite target, Jadon Hazelwood. Like say, was really efficient on the day, and I really like that guy. Like I say, on the defense, they're worrying. Like, you can't keep shipping this many points. Max Duggan threw for nearly 400 yards and 4 interceptions. If Zachary Evans, the star TCU running back, were playing, that could have been a totally different game. Like, they were very well matched on offense, both of them, like I say. But no, I think Caleb Williams now has won the trust. The fans called for him. He came in, saw a game out. Now he's had his own game that he's taken control of. Like say, he looked confident, like he can control and take the lead of this offense. And now it's really hard to see a way back for Spencer Rattler. Not while they keep winning. Like I say, it don't matter what they do on defense. He can just control what they do on offense, and so far he's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really good to see him come out with that sort of performance. He was under so much pressure in that game coming up, trying to replace the guy who was meant to go number 1 in the draft, and he really showed his best side, which was great. TCU, for the most part, obviously their defense was pretty terrible, but that's sort of a feature of them this year. They give up a lot of points. Their offense, they did nothing wrong in this one, really. Max Duggan, you mentioned, he was 20 of 30, 346 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 50 yards. He had a busy day. The running game was probably the one bit where they didn't stack up. Imari Demercado went 7 for 57. Kendre Miller went 15 for 55. They didn't really stand out there and rush too much. Oklahoma shared out the touchdowns between the running game and the passing game. But in the passing game for TCU, Quentin Johnston, their wide receiver, he went 7 for 185 at 26 yards per catch, and he got himself 3 touchdowns. And then Kendre Miller, the running back, he chipped in 4 for 56 and 1 touchdown. There are only 2 sacks this game from the defense, which tells you how much defense was thought about in this one. They both went to defensive end O'Shawn Mattis from TCU. He had a busy day. He got 7 tackles and 2 sacks, so at least one defender came out of that with a little bit of credit, but we shall move it on. We have to talk about it. Ranked teams getting beaten by unranked teams. I will let you have this one because I don't want to rub it in I don't want to rub it in at all. It was a bad one, but Utah, Arizona State, you were quite confident about this one. Utah were on a bit of run of form. Your first half performance was exemplary, and then it all went to pot. What happened with Arizona State this weekend?
Like you say, we were controlling the ball. Jane Daniels had a nice game. We found the tight ends pretty well in the first half. We were leading 21-7 at the half. Everything were rosy. And then we didn't score again. We got completely shut out in the second half, and that's because of penalties. We racked up, I think, more than 10 flags and over 100 yards in one half alone. It killed every single drive. We got into the red zone a few times, and it just stalled. We kept moving further and further back out of field goal range. Herb, Marv, they're really upset. The fans were really upset. This was a conference loss to Utah. Full credit to them. Like they took advantage of our lack of discipline they managed to rack up the points. This one stings because that meant we dropped down a place in the Pac-12 rankings. We've now got a team that's in great form next in Wazoo, Washington. They're on a 3-game win streak. It's been brought forward for TV. Like, it was a really painful loss. The second half was so ugly. And actually, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to enter the 2022 draft either. And a lot thought highly of him. So he could very well return for his senior year and polish up. So this is a season that's turning out where things that weren't quite as we thought they were going to be. Some guys that we're all wanting to see next year in the Lions in the league simply aren't going to take the plunge just yet. But no, it was a painful loss, and we've got to bounce back quickly.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all the stats for this one. I will save you that pain. But just to put it into perspective, Arizona State were 21-7 up at the half. They ended up losing the second half 28-0. So Utah ended up winning 35-21. And how that leaves the Pack is, I believe Utah are now the only undefeated team in terms of conference rivalry. They're 3-0 in the Pack now, so they're top of the Pack South, and remains to be seen how far they're going to go. But they're on just a run of form at the minute where they can't be stopped. So a bad one there for Arizona State, but hopefully they're able to bounce back. It'll be a big test for them against Washington State, as Ryan said.
I've got a fun fact as well. For the last 4 or 5 weeks, every team ranked number 18 in the AP poll has lost. So if you're ranked 18 going in this week, you better check yourself, because that is an unfortunate ranking, and that's a fun fact.
Just checking, North Carolina State are there this week, which is a shame because I love them. But
that's a shame.
Who are they playing? Let's just have a quick look, because I just want to see who they're going to play. Oh, they're playing Miami, the Hurricanes.
They're fine then.
They're fine. Yeah, upset's not happening this weekend, so we will move it on. So another game we mentioned at the start of the review. So Oklahoma State, they got the statement win of the week here. They had a lot of questions to be answered in this one. They were wondering whether the defense would be able to hold up, because this Longhorns offense has just been on a roll recently, and could the offense do enough to put up enough points to give them a chance? Well, the answer was yes. They ran out 32-24 winners. This was a game really for the running backs on offense. So for Oklahoma State, Jalen Warren, who's having a great year, he got 33 carries, went for 193 yards, just kept this offense ticking all game, allowing quarterback Spencer Sanders to go about his thing. He had a steady day. He was 19 of 32, 178 yards. He threw for a touchdown, he threw 1 interception, and he also got a rushing touchdown. And Brennan Presley, the wide receiver, led the way with 3 for 30 and a touchdown in their passing game. On Texas's side, Bijan Robinson, his season continues to go from strength to strength, and if there's anyone's draft stock who is going up steeply week by week, it is his. So Bijan Robinson, he ran 21 times for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also got 3 receptions for 38 yards and another touchdown. To put it into perspective, he scored all Texas's touchdowns this game. The quarterback, Casey Thompson, not a great one, 15 of 27, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and the Texas defense only managed to get 1 sack on OSU. Now, you said this last week when we were previewing this game, Ryan. This was all going to come down to the Oklahoma State defense, and would they be able to pull them through this? And after giving up 17 points in the first half, they then came out and they gave up just a measly 7 in the second, meaning Oklahoma State won the second half 19-7 and pulled themselves out of a hole that at one point seemed insurmountable. But the defense stood up and did its job, and Jalen Warren gave them just enough impetus to be able to get over the line in this one. And this is a real statement win for their season, isn't it?
It is, yeah, like you say, because Texas has such a high-powered offense. Like you say, they've got one of the best. They've got a Heisman candidate running back that allows them to open up the passing game. But that didn't happen this week. Normally when you run on first and second down and the defense has to get a little bit more honest and stack the box, you can take some shots. But they didn't. They kept their defense. They shut down that passing game. Like I say, I think I think Colby Harvell-Peel, I think the safety had an interception. He's a guy we've mentioned this year. Like, I think they had a really good game on the back end. I'd say it was a weird one. Texas threw this game away. They had that stranglehold at halftime, and then a team with a dominant run game. We expect them to be able to manipulate the clock so that second half flies by, but that just wasn't the case. Like I said, they weren't able to stay on the field long enough to see this one out. Like I say, and they faltered, they stuttered on drives. Like I say, the penalty, they were behind the chains. Like I say, and eventually, like I say, they just ran out of steam. Oklahoma State, we did not expect them to probably be unbeaten at this point at stage. Like I say, they're matching their rivals Oklahoma step by step. They're right behind them, clinging onto their coattails. It's really good for that division. Like I say, and Spencer Sanders, he's been around a while. Like I say, he didn't have a fantastic game, but he picked his shots carefully and he protected the ball. So on both sides of the ball, they both did their job. Like I say, in the end, they were fairly comfortable winners in that second half.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is they stuck with the run game. They stuck with Jalen Warren. They didn't try and get away from it because they were about 15 points down at one stage, and you're thinking, uh-oh, trouble for them here. But they stuck with it, allowed the offense to carry on functioning how it did, and they got it across the line. So there's lessons to be learned there. Don't go away from your run game. Not looking at you, Detroit Lions, at all. Moving on, still a lot of games this weekend. So this one was a team that nearly got upset. This was Ole Miss we're going to talk about this week, and Matt Corral, who is getting worked into the ground by them at the minute. Now, the longer the short, they were playing Tennessee this week, and they won 31-26, but this all came down to the last play of the game when Tennessee were driving. There was a chance for them to take a shot into the end zone to win it all, and Joe Milton, if you remember him, the former Michigan Wolverines quarterback who hadn't even started this game, had been brought in for the play, and the play started. He was there surveying the field, looking for his target in the end zone, and he chose to run. He was about 15, 20 yards out. He was not close to the end zone. He decided that no, I'm not going to pass it. I'm going to run, and the entire Ole Miss defense came down and just hit him out of bounds, and he's got a lot of criticism for that this week. Ole Miss got away with one this weekend, didn't they? Because they probably should have lost this one.
Yeah, they got away with one, like you say. We've seen in the last few weeks that they've got some defensive vulnerabilities. Like say that they're having to score too many points to win games. Like say, it was like say the Arkansas game. This one, they're not controlling third and fourth down. They're just not getting off the field. Like say, it was a bizarre decision. Like say, to bring on a guy, like say, for a play that's supposed to have a good arm, and then what on earth is he thinking? He must have been told, like, whatever you do, like say, even if it gets intercepted, you get that ball into the end zone by any means possible. And he just decided to take off. The defenders were all sitting deep, guarding the end zone. So like there was room in front of him, like say, to take a shot. There wasn't that much pressure. And he just makes a bizarre decision. Like say, at very worst, if he throws it into end zone, it's intercepted. But at least you tried. Like he just, I'm not surprised he's taken so many critics. Like say, right now, Ole Miss are leaning on Matt Corral incredibly heavy in the passing game, but also in the rushing game. Like say, he's having to rush for 100, 150 yards in games. Like he's risking injury in a crucial point of his career, getting so many carries on the ground, but he's showing that he could very well be, like say, a dual threat quarterback when he thought he just had a cannon of an arm. So he's coming out of this smelling of roses. But like I say, they got lucky again. Lane Kiffin's luck is going to run out because that's his two very close wins that could have easily been losses.
Well, it's the story of a few different quarterbacks here, isn't it? Obviously, Milton transferred to Tennessee to try and rejuvenate his career. He lost the starting job, and now this happens. That's obviously really backfired for him now, and you wonder where he can go after this. But Matt Corral, his draft stock is improving a lot. I mean, you mentioned in your analysis of him the games he's had in the past where he's thrown a lot of interceptions and had really bad games. Those games don't seem to be coming this year. He seems to be quite steady in what he's doing. He seems to have eliminated a lot of the mistakes, which is really good from his point of view. I mean, in this one, 21 of 38, not the greatest, but 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 1 interception, but it was a minimum. In the rushing game, 30 carries for 195 yards. He got nearly 200 yards on the ground, as well as throwing 38 times. That's 68 plays put around him on there. You can't put such pressure on him all game because you can't allow your quarterback to take that much of a hammering, because he took a few sacks in there as well. So he's going to be sore this week. But, he showed up. His team won. Ole Miss seemed to have rebounded pretty well from the Alabama defeat, where they just didn't show. It seemed to be a good game all round for them. Dontario Drummond, he continued his good form. Just 2 receptions, but 66 yards and another touchdown. He's another one whose stock is rising as the season goes on. Jared Conner, the regular running back, he got 2 touchdowns, although he only went for 24 yards. A little note I put down here, Ole Miss had 100 offensive snaps in this one. They rushed the ball 62 times and they threw 38. That's a lot. 62
That's
rushing. 62 rushes, 38 passes. They were on the field for a long time. But Tennessee hung in there. Hendon Hooker, the actual starting quarterback, 233 yards and a touchdown he threw for. Also rushed for 108 yards and a touchdown. Both quarterbacks led their respective rushing rooms in this one as well. And there were some good defensive performances in there. Both teams got 5 sacks. Mark Robinson, the linebacker for Ole Miss, he got 14 tackles, 2 of those sacks. He had a really good game, and one who is having a great season. So, great to see another game like that. It was entertaining to watch. Were you able to watch a lot of it? I guess you are if you're watching Corral.
Yeah, I managed to watch a lot of it, like you say, and it was a bit like I say, it was a toss of the coin in the end. Like I say, if he decides to make a decision, makes a play, there's a walk-off touchdown, probably storm the field. It could have gone very differently. Like I say, both teams were very much in it all the way. Like I say, Ole Miss in the end just managed to get one break of play, like I say, and they just hounded him, got him out of bounds, and they survived, like I say. And their good season continues. No one expected them to beat Alabama, even if they made some stupid, brash comments. But no, they're riding the crest of a wave. And like I say, it's taken Corral a whole half of a season to throw an interception. I can't believe I'm saying that.
No, he's having a good year, and with the sort of quarterback up in flux for the draft at the moment, it's going to be really interesting if he carries on to see where he's going to land on the power rankings there, because you would have to assume he's pretty high now, with Rattler dropping and some of the others not doing so well either. Malik Willis is struggling. So he's fast coming up the rankings, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But we'll move on because there's still loads of games that we have on here. So the one I watched, which I ended up it was really entertaining, but I was really disappointed for the team I like. I was watching Arkansas and Auburn. Obviously, you know what me and Ryan think about Auburn. Bo Nix, they're not the greatest in the world, and it may be a bit fraudulent, but they came to Arkansas and they absolutely blew them away, 38 points to 23. Although, on a good note for me, Treylon Burks had a really good day at wide receiver for Arkansas. He had 109 yards and 2 touchdowns, but the day belonged to Bo Nix. He threw for 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He rushed for a touchdown as well. Tank Bigsby, another touchdown as he continues to impress this year as well. I watched this. Arkansas at no point ever looked like they were in this, and this was really disappointing because after the start they had, I thought they were better than this. But after a 4-0 start, they've now lost 3 in a row, and they're back to how we thought they were going to be this season.
It's sad. Their season is very quickly fizzling out. They're going to be struggling to even finish at 500. It's like life comes at them quick, like you say, and this was a game where they were never steady on defense. They never looked set because they didn't know what were coming. Like you say, you've got Tanks Bigsby, he's a beast. He's a brute of a man. He's become one of the best backs in football. And when Bo Nix decides to turn up, he's got a massive arm. He's got a big, strong frame. He's hard to bring down. And when the running game and the passing game, actually form as one, Auburn can kind of beat anyone. It don't happen often, like I say, but they controlled the ball well. Like I say, they were darting. Like say he was had an accurate day. Like he's got a really good, strong, fast throw. Like say he looks good on paper and he shows up at times. And this was just one of them weeks where when things go right for them, they can quickly outscore an opponent. And so like Arkansas, not built to come from behind. We've seen that already this season. Like I say, they're a good front runner, but like I say, KJ Jefferson, I feel like he's been hampered for many weeks now. It feels like he's never been 100%. Like they're not protecting him very well, but he likes to leave the pocket a lot. He risks himself. He puts himself in danger at times and getting hit. Like Treylon Burks is, like I say, he's kicking it form. He's had some good consecutive weeks now. His stock, like I say, is solidified nicely, and his stock luckily doesn't rely heavily on them winning or losing as long as he puts in a good performance. But it was a good game, but no, like I say, 3 losses on a skid. It's going to be hard to stop this slide. They need a nice, easy opponent to just stop the rot.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they might be able to take one of these bigger teams down, but it was not the case. But, as I said last week about KJ Jefferson, I really like him. I was out on him a bit at first, but he seems to be growing into a better passer as the week goes by, and he threw 230 yards and 2 touchdowns this week, no interceptions. He did nothing really wrong. It's just the offense couldn't really get going, and that wasn't all down to him. But, I mean, Treylon Burks is going to be big in the league. I think he's just really coming out his shell now, and he's going to be going high up the draft, and I will have my eyes on him very closely for the Detroit Lions because we need a receiver like that. But Arkansas' slide continues, which is a shame. And speaking of teams on a slide, that brings us to BYU and to one of the sneaky teams this year. Now, BYU started 5-0, beat Ryan's Arizona State in that. They were beating some good teams. They've now lost 2 on the bounce. They came up against the Baylor Bears, who, to be fair, blew them out really, 38-24. This was another one that was never really close for a long portion of it. Baylor are having, like you say, a very sneaky good year. I mean, this was all primarily down to the running game. Abram Smith, their running back, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. Treston Ebner, he got nearly 100. Jerry Bohan only threw for 231 yards, so it was a bit of an all-round performance. But Baylor are going to be coming to people's attention now. Like I say, they've snuck under there, but this BYU team are good. They're hard to beat, and they made it look easy.
Yeah, like I said, BYU, they've lost their way in the last 2 weeks. They were looking very comfortable. Like I say, that loss to Boise, I think it was Boise State that knocked off their unbeaten record. I think it was, which was a very unexpected loss. That feels like a shock to the system because they've been such a balanced offense. They've had their quarterback, like say, Jaron Hall. They've had the running back, Tyler Algier, who looks really good. Running back, Tyler Algier, the receiver. This is a team that's really balanced on offense. Like saying they can generate turnovers, but they've just not been playing up to the level they can on either side of the ball. And they were unfortunate, like say, to meet a team like Baylor that are just in scintillating form. Like say, they look right now that riding the crest of a wave, and they just weren't able to compete in offense. They just couldn't keep up in that game. Like say, Baylor just challenged them. They ran that ball down their throats. Like say, long drives. They milked the clock. And in the end, they made it look pretty easy against a team that is no slouch. Like I say, it was a very impressive win. Probably one of the best ones of the season from so far.
Definitely, I would agree with that, and it's going to be interesting to see. They're another one. Can they get like Oklahoma State? Can they really break up into this top 25 and put themselves in there? I'm not sure what their schedule is going forward, but it'll be interesting to see, and I'll be hopefully looking to watch them this weekend because I've not really had much of a chance to do so far. The other few I've done down here, we can maybe go through these a bit quicker because we've been on these a while now. So LSU, we mentioned they're parting with their head coach at the end of the season, but they went to the Florida Gators, who were ranked, and they beat them in a very, very high-scoring fixture. LSU won that one 49-42, leaving Florida in flux now. They've dropped out of the rankings. Their season is another one that's really hit the skids, and you don't know where they're going to go from there. You don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on the head coach anytime soon. UNC, they won 45-42 against the Hurricanes. They tried really hard in this one, but Sam Howell was able to get UNC through there. And one of the big results that I didn't really look at until not so long ago, Virginia Tech, they played Pittsburgh this week, and Pittsburgh absolutely annihilated them. That ended up, well, it was only 28-7, but not many people play against Virginia Tech and keep them down that far. I mean, people are talking a lot about Pickett now, and his age is there and whatnot. But him and Pittsburgh, they're having a hell of a year. I mean, what did you think about these few? Did you get a chance to watch any of them?
I watched the UNC game and I was so impressed by Sam Howell because he got beat up. He got smacked. He got hit in the head. He looked wobbly at times. He stuck in there in that pocket because that Miami defense, they got after him. They hit him so many times. He must have been so sore, but he was just letting passes rip. He looked fantastic. I'd say this was the gutsiest performance of him all year. Miami, fair play, they're down to bare bones. Like say Van Dyke, I think Van Dyke, their freshman quarterback, he put together a really nice game when he needed to. But like I say, he showed his lack of experience because on the game-winning drive, which potential, ill-advised pass over the middle, picked off, and that one sealed it. UNC, just once again, no defence. Defence is poor. Like, they cannot keep letting teams put 30, 40 points up because, like I say, Sam Howell just keeps somehow digging him out of holes, and his rushing is getting really good. He's getting really composed, and he knows when and when not to take off. So, yeah, he will look black and blue, but great game. Like I say, Kenny Pickett is now a 4 or 5 year starter at Pittsburgh. He is in there. He's in top 5 for all the records. They're having a fantastic year again. Like, they're just a really hard team to beat. He's probably the best pure pocket passer, maybe in the draft. Like I say, it does work against him. Like I say, the poor lad's already 24. Like, you question what he's been doing all these years. When will he take his first NFL snap? That's going to put a lot of people off, but no one can write off Pitt. The Pitt Panthers have always been a great team to watch. Like I say, and they just produce a lot of NFL caliber players. Like I say, Virginia Tech, they have some good players. Like I say, Braxton Burmeister, he is no slouch. That offense, they've got a really productive offense with a great quarterback, and they got shut down completely. Like, that was a pretty big statement win for a team that is just really racking up wins quickly, Pitt. It's hard to see where the first loss is going to come.
Yeah, it is. I'd agree with most of what you say there. I think I totally agree with Howell. He got maligned after that first performance of the season, and everyone just seemed to want to try and forget about him really quickly, but he is putting together a really good season there. It's just he's been hampered, like you say, by that defense. The offensive line struggled to start with. It's still struggling now. He's taken a lot of hits, but in this one he rushed for 100 yards, and he got 2 rushing touchdowns as well. He threw for only 150, but the rushing game is finally starting to come together a bit there, and they've also got a really good receiver in Josh Downs, who's emerged in the void of all the talent they lost in the draft. Another 96 yards and a touchdown for him today. He looks like the next big threat there at receiver, and he's probably going to follow in the footsteps of the ones who've just gone before him and make a lot of noise in the draft, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's a pure deep threat. Like I say, I've seen him break. He takes the roof off defenses. Like I say, and Howell trusts him with his life. He will put it down the field, just hope he goes and gets it. And like I say, he looks great when he's running at the pylon at the corner. He's got nice composure, strong hands, and like I say, he's standing out on a very basic offense. Like, it's having a great year, them two. And it's just a shame, like I say, because Howell could still very well go in the first round of the draft. But as a Heisman contender, he's nowhere near, unfortunately, because UNC just look that bad. They're really doing him a discredit and a disservice.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And if he carries on the way he is, he still needs to go high up the draft. He's still got a hell of a career in front of him as a quarterback. So, and he's proven it. You just watch the UNC games. This isn't on him that season. He is trying his absolute heart out, and he's going to be a really good quarterback going forward. Where he goes remains to be seen, but he is having a good season, and don't let that first game put you off him. So that's the review for Week 7. There were that many games. There were more we could have spoke about, but obviously we're aware we don't want to keep you here absolutely forever. So we're going to take a quick look at week 8, see some of those fixtures coming up, and then we're going to move on to the big thing. We're going to move on to our half-season mock draft. So week 8, this is another week where I don't think there's any ranked on ranked fixtures this weekend, which is a weird one. Obviously, teams are going on buys now, so a few of them aren't playing, but this is all ranked versus unranked. But as we've seen this year, that doesn't really mean that much. You can't. I mean, trying to bet on teams must be an absolute nightmare if you're over there. But the first game of the week is the one I'm going to come to. I believe it takes place technically tonight, our time, about midnight, and this is one I am really looking forward to seeing because I really love this quarterback, and that is number 14 ranked Coastal Carolina. They are travelling to Appalachian State. Now this is going to be a huge test for the Chanticleers and their unbeaten season, but this is going to be a game for the neutral. If you want to see what college football is all about in its offensive ways, this is the place to go. So both teams, their average offensive yards per game, they combine to 988.6 yards. So that's how many yards on offense these two teams put up a game. These are two highly offensive teams, and Grayson McCall at Coastal Carolina is having a hell of a year, and he's moving up the draft at a rate of knots. This is going to be an absolutely great game, and possibility here of an upset because Appalachian State are no slouches. What do you think about this one, Ryan? I mean, nearly 1,000 yards offense these teams combine for a game. This is going to be a barnstormer.
It's either going to be a barnstormer or a total damp squib. Like I say, if they could cancel each other out, but I just don't see it. Because like I say, you've got Grayson McCall on one side, but on the other bit, you've got Chase Bryce, who is actually a good quarterback. He was a Clemson commit that left and went to Duke, struggled there. He's got here replaced Zach Stacy at Appalachian State, and that offense is just primed to explode. They've got a vicious run game. They pound the ball down people's throats, which opens up nice passing lanes for him. Like I said, it's fair to say you could put them an upset alert. It's weird because I swear these teams play a lot of Thursdays. I think they have some sort of deal because they play a lot of Thursday night football in that conference, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I say, I wasn't sure if Coastal Carolina were a fluke last year. Well, I'm definitely sure now they're no fluke. They're now second year into this. Like I say, they've lost like one game, 2 years combined. They're fantastic. They're going to send a few more players to the draft. It's just a great neutral story, neutral game. Like I say, this could be a 80, 90, 100 point game. Like I say, it's going to be really fun. I expect a lot of high scoring. So it's going to be all on the defences, who can put up the stands when it matters and who can get off the field. Turnovers will be key. I expect there could be a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, with offensive teams like this, they're often going to bomb it downfield and the opportunities are there. But that game is at midnight British time tonight, so if you want to stay up and watch a little bit of late college football, because it'll be available to watch, I would suggest you do so. I stay up late to watch the Chanticleers every week, because they're usually on at this time, and it's never a letdown. I think they've put up over 50 points in 3 of the last 4 games, so please do go and watch this one. I can't tell you which way it's going to go. There could be an upset alert there, but you never know. Now, the next game, this is a potential upset alert because the Vegas lines tell you it is. And this is Oklahoma State, who we've just been talking about very recently. This week, they are going to face another stern test of their top 10 credentials as they travel to Brock Purdy and Iowa State. Now, the Cyclones are opening up as a 7-point favourite for this one against their ranked opponents. But, I mean, Oklahoma State, they came from behind against the number 25 ranked Longhorns last week. They are no pushovers, but I mean, this is a story of 2 running backs in this one. So Iowa State running back Breece Hall, in his last 3 games, he has 510 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. And on the opposite side, Jalen Warren for Oklahoma State, in the last 3, he has 441 yards and 1 touchdown. So these guys have combined over 3 games for nearly 1,000 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. Yes, Breece Hall is very, very dangerous, more so than Warren, but both these guys are game changers on the day. How do you see this one going? I mean, after last week, I'm not going to bet against Oklahoma State. They showed me that they are bona fide this year, and Iowa State have been hit and miss. What do you see going on in this one?
I'm confused why Iowa State are opening up as favourites. For me, after they lost to Iowa, I writ them off. I writ their season off. Like they're very, like you say, they're so inconsistent. Brees Hall, he is their offense right now. I've got him as the number one back in the 2022 draft. He will be the first guy taken off the board at that position, I feel. They weigh heavily on his shoulders because this was supposed to be the year that Brock Purdy was going to take them to the playoffs. He was going to go out, everyone carrying him, cheering, like I say, into the draft. But it's just not happened like that. Like I say, lots of turnovers. His ball security hasn't been great. I don't expect an upset. I feel like this is a game that Oklahoma will be able to control the ball. They took the ball away from Texas. Like I say, I think they'll be able to take the ball away from Oklahoma. I mean, they'll be able to take the ball away from Iowa State. Like I say, I think they're going to have to rely heavily on Brees Hall, keep the ball in his hands to keep the clock moving, keep the clock turning, ticking over, because Iowa State do ship points. Like I say, they can be very temperamental on both sides of the ball. I think Oklahoma State can take advantage of that. I'd expect them to come out, I'd say maybe a score or two up. I think this should be a reasonably comfortable win. I have not seen enough from Iowa State to predict that they'll be able to take them down.
See, if there's one thing I've learnt this year is I'm never ever calling a sure thing again, ever. Because the second you do, the opposite happens, and then you come on the show next week and you're like, yeah, so about that one. But, you know, I agree. For my views, I think Oklahoma State have proven themselves, and I think they're going to do well in this one. Iowa State have shown nothing to show that they're just going to come in and have their way with them. But they do have home field advantage, so that can always work for something. So we will see. The next one, however, I really am putting on upset alerts, because this is number 12 ranked Ole Miss, who are playing against LSU. Now, despite LSU having all the injuries in the world, which reflects on the amount of points they're letting in at the minute, because they let up 42, I think it was just this weekend, just gone. They are scoring heavily still, even without their top wide receiver. Max Johnson has settled in really well there and seems to be becoming the future for them at quarterback. And they're up against Ole Miss now. Matt Corral is coming into this one in a rich vein of form. It's going to be a wonderful quarterback duel to see. But as you were alluding to earlier, Ryan, Ole Miss's defense gives up points, and LSU is scoring at the moment. And there's a lot of talented players still there, despite the injuries. If there's anywhere this week where I think an unranked team's really going to put in a statement, I reckon it could be this one. I don't know about you, though.
No, I agree. This is an upset alert. LSU are a funny team because they haven't got anything to play for. Like I say, their coach is on his way out. They've got all these injuries. All they could really do now is play party pooper. Like I say, they're slinging it for their life. The offensive line have gelled together nicely. In the last few weeks, Max Johnson has got a lot of protection. His pocket's been really clean to work with. So even when you've got supporting cast of receivers that aren't great, if you're protected, he can get the ball downfield and they can score quickly. This one is going to be a shootout of the ages. There's not going to be much defense played here, like I say, because Ole Miss, like I say, they ship points for fun. We've just seen an average Florida team drop 40 on LSU. This could be one of the best games all year. And I think this could be the week Ole Miss's luck runs out, because they've got a lot of luck recently. Like say the 2-point conversion that failed, the stupid Joe Milton play. They could have lost 2 weeks. They squeaked out 2 wins. This luck will dry up if they do not get some pressure, challenge that offensive line, and let Max Johnson sit and pick them off. Then there'll be a week where they just aren't able to keep pace. And I think it's going to be this week. I think this is the week where Matt Corral may struggle, because, like I say, all the pressure is on him this week. There's no pressure on LSU all year now.
Yep, agreed totally. This is where I see the upset coming, and this is where I'm going to plant my flag. The next one's an unranked one. Now, I'll let you explain this one more, because you know your rivalries better, and I believe this is a rivalry. I'm going to look really bad if it doesn't, but USC playing Notre Dame.
Yeah. This is a rivalry because this is 2 old historic teams. Like these two are 2 very proud, long-running franchises and programs. Like I say, they've had battles for, like say, 70s, 80s, 90s. for the whole time. Like I say, Notre Dame have been independent, and this is two teams that are very inconsistent. Like USC have taken a few hidings lately. They have had their ass handed to them on a few occasions. USC and Stanford, so they're reeling. They will be licking their wounds badly because Keaton Slovis has fallen off a cliff. His draft stock, whatever was there before, is not now. And Notre Dame, like I say, they just recycle quarterbacks. They have to play at least 2, 3 quarterbacks every week because I think they've got some sort of quota to meet up. They can't keep teams out. They can't put teams away. They're getting away with these wins. This game is going to be all sorts of ugly, and I have no idea who's going to win. Like I say, if they can keep a decent game and keep Jack Cohen upright, which the offensive line's not been able to do, they should be able to put away a USC team that is fizzling out. So I'll give the edge just to Notre Dame, especially because they're running back as well. He's having a really good few weeks. Is it Kyron Williams, I think his name is?
Yeah, Kyron Williams.
Like I say, they've been getting pick sixes. This is going to be a game where we're going to see Kyle Hamilton stand up. If they're going to take shots willy-nilly, Keaton Slovis, like I say, he will be over the top of Drake London as quick as a flash. So I expect USC to really struggle and probably limp to another loss.
Yeah, I've criticised Notre Dame a lot this year, but I've seen nothing from USC to suggest that they're going to be able to hang with them in this, unless, as I say, you say they can get Drake London going and Slovis can have one of his better games. I expect Notre Dame to win this one and quite comfortably. So, we'll see. I don't know. That doesn't define as an upset, really, but I'll move on. So I've got 4 more I've highlighted. We'll quickly go through them because anyone watching, and there are a few, and we thank everyone who is watching with us. This is our first week doing it live, so if you are with us, we really appreciate you. And if you are chatting in YouTube or whatever, just bear in mind, we will try and chat with you at some point, but I'm just trying to make sure everything runs smooth with the stream this time, but we will get better at this. We'll move through the last few fixtures we're looking at because we want to get to the mock drafts, and everyone wants to hear where we are at this point in the season with them. So the next one, this is where I was going to land my upset flag this weekend, but then I took a look at it, and it turns out that the team I thought were going to pull the upset are favourites. This is number 10 ranked Oregon against UCLA. Now, I thought Oregon might be a little fragile recently after some of the results. UCLA were a favourite of ours early in this season. They have got, with Charbonnet and Thompson Robinson there, an offence which is capable of doing really great things. And I thought, right, I'm going to go for UCLA in this one. But UCLA open up as favourites. Are you surprised at that one? Do you see UCLA winning this? It's at their ground. They're on home advantage. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Like I say, I think the home advantage probably tips the fact that they've been favourites. Like I say, Oregon against the run on defence have struggled. Like I say, when Kayvon has not been in, like they have struggled at times to be able to shore up that middle. Zach Charbonnet has been intermittent, I'd say. When we played Arizona State, we shut down DTR and Charbonnet. But like I say, between them on their day, they can chug, they can rush, they can manage to clock. Like I say, they're probably going to put up points against an Oregon team that have shipped a few points. Like I say, on the back end, like I say, they're not as sturdy as they are up front. If Kayvon can't get to the quarterback, then there is time to release that ball. And on offense, I've said it before, I don't really rate Anthony Brown, the quarterback, that highly. Like I say, the star running back CJ Vidal went down. Troy Dye had a good game last week. I'm pretty sure he put up like 100 yards, but they're relying very heavily on him right now, losing Vidal. Like I said, this is going to be a game that I think is going to be key on rushing. I expect them to hit the ground running both teams heavily. So the team with the ball on the last possession is probably going to be the team that comes away with the victory.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be close, but I think it's going to be a really good game. And I'm going to watch it. I need to watch Kayvon more because obviously the draft talk's getting there now. We look like we're going to be heading towards number 1 as it stands, and he is the guy who's standing out amongst everyone at the minute as to the guy you take there. So it's going to be interesting. But if UCLA win, I'll be happy for them. They're a good side this year, and I want to see them do well. The last few, I'm just going to get quick answers for on this one, and we'll crack on with the other bits. So Clemson and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh obviously just broken the top 25, doing really well with Kenny Pickett. Can they sneak a win over Clemson?
Yes, and it won't even be a sneak. Kenny Pickett is going to put that defense to the sword. they're going to win, I think, comfortably. This is going to be another game where the Clemson slip up and DJU just doesn't get going again.
I think it's going to be closer, but I would agree. I think Pittsburgh are going to win this. And who would have said that at the start of the season? Nobody. Next up, Louisville, Boston College. Louisville, we both love to watch them. Boston College, though, even without Phil Jurkovic, they've been doing all right. How do you see this one going? Are Louisville finally going to put a big win up on the board? Because they've been on the end of some really high-scoring ones, but they lose quite a few of them.
They lose quite a few. Like say, this could be like the Wake Forest game where they're right in it to the end, trading blows. Louisville, like say, Malik Cunningham, he's so fun to watch. He's a fantastic quarterback. That defense is so leaky. Whereas we just saw a Boston College team, like you say, hold Clemson to just 17 points. I think there's a bit more on that defensive side of the ball that can probably slow this Louisville offense. Like you say, Jurkovic got hurt, Zay Flowers had a knock, but I think to keep their title hopes alive, BC will probably squeak out a victory in this game. But like you say, I think Malik Cunningham will probably show out again.
Ooh, I'm going to take Louisville in this one. I love high-powered offenses. They are that. I enjoy watching them. I want to see them win one, so we'll go for that. And then I've left this one till last. If you're going to watch games this weekend, the most intriguing quarterback battle for me, two really good quarterbacks. This is Fresno State versus Nevada. You've got Jake Haener. Fresno State had an amazing start to the season. It's quieting down a little bit, but he's still having a really good year and doing his draft stock a world of good. Versus Carson Strong and Nevada. I think I'm looking forward to seeing this. Nevada going to blow Fresno State out the ground, and Carson Strong is going to he's going to put the draft on notice for me. Do you see any different? Am I a bit blinded by my love for Carson Strong here?
I think this game's going to be really close. I don't think that Nevada defense will be able to stop Jalen Cropper. Like say, he's also a star wide receiver, having a fantastic year. I expect that one of these teams is going to have to take away the weapon. Someone is going to have to stop, like you say, Romeo Dubes or stop Jalen Cropper. The team that is able to take away that star wide receiver is probably going to generate at least one turnover if they can't laser focus and look elsewhere on the field. So I will give it to Carson Strong because I think like he will be able to read the field better and go to his other options. Jake Haener does like to just pick on someone. So I think it'll be a very close Nevada win. I expect both quarterbacks to put good numbers. Whoever keeps the ball protected the most will probably win the game.
Yeah, agreed. But it is a game to watch. So, Fresno State, Nevada, Clemson, Pittsburgh, Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State tonight. If you want to watch some good football, that is where it is to be found now. That is the end of our Week 8 preview. And last thing before we get onto the half-season mock draft, Ryan mentioned last week he was going to turn into the fashion police, and he's going to have a look through the uniforms of the teams on the weekend, pick out some of the good ones, pick out some of the bad ones. The one thing you can guarantee is there's going to be a lot of home field bias here, because in fairness, the Pac-12 has a lot of really good uniforms. What did you come up with this week on the uniform watch, Ryan?
Well, because you've said that, I've decided that I'm going to leave Arizona State. I'm going to leave the Pac-12 alone. I didn't pick them. My best uniform of the week has to go to the Air Force Falcons. They decided to wear their white-out uniforms, all white, blue lettering, and they have the striking blue lightning bolt on their helmet. It looked very crisp. They looked like Power Rangers. It was just really clean and tidy, and they also got a massive win in it. They went to 6-1, sneaky good year. So, like I say, when you put on good uniforms, if you look good, you've got to play good, and they did. I've got an honourable mention, like say for Dartmouth. They decided to have a nice vintage helmet this week called the Lone Pine. It was a white helmet, like say it had a nice green, like say leaf print on it, with a nice green face cage, and the helmet looked really good. Like it blew up and it just finished off the uniform nicely. But if we have the good, we have the bad. And I'm sorry, but Cincinnati Bearcats get the worst of the uniform this week because all they did was steal the Texas Tech uniforms, slap their logo on it. Literally, it must be Under Armour templates. There's a reason Texas Tech played in white this week because someone stole all their uniform, and it was Cincinnati. They just put their Bearcats logo on it, and it was unimaginative, and it just looked a bit cheap and naff. Like I say, I was very disappointed by that.
But it didn't affect the result. Cincinnati absolutely whipped UCF. So at least it didn't put a curse on them there. But I will go and have a look at some of those. And if you're listening, if you want to take a look at some of them, I saw the Air Force one and it was mint. I must admit, if I were going to play American football, I would love to wear a uniform like that. It was absolutely stunning. But that is the uniform watch for this week. That is a thing we're going to be doing weekly from now on. Ryan's going to be keeping a very close eye out there, and I'm surprised the Pac-12 didn't get mentioned this week, but you can be sure that it will be mentioned at some stage, because as far as uniforms go, it's one of the best leagues going. But anyhow, we will move it on, and we get to the pièce de résistance of the podcast. Now, people are going to go, mock draft, why the hell are we doing this already? It's 6 weeks into the NFL season. Well, that is true, but right now we're at the halfway point of the college season. That starts earlier. We're about halfway now, and obviously when we started this podcast, we did it for the reason, we just, especially for people over here in the UK, we want to keep them abreast of the college game, what's going on, the players we like, etc. So we thought, well, what we'll do, we'll get to half season and then we're going to do a mock draft, because we want to see how our views to players develop a little bit. Obviously, there's still a lot of time in the season to go, so we wanted to do this mock draft, and then at the end of the season, in about 7 weeks' time, we're going to do another one. We're going to take our ones from today, we're going to match them then, and we're going to see if our views have changed on players, what's gone on. But it's just a little interesting thing for us. But this is sort of a halfway stage update. If we were to do the draft now for the Detroit Lions, what would we do? Now, there are a few parameters to this one. We can't do it exact at the minute because, one, we don't know where they're drafting yet, even though the pessimists among us will say 1, and obviously there's a good chance that could happen. But what we've done is we've picked where we think we're going to draft, and we're going to draft the players correspondingly there. And also we've got our comp picks. We've assumed we're going to get a 3rd, a 5th and a 6th, I believe is what is on there. So this isn't nailed in stone yet, but we're working with the closest we can get there. So by my reckoning, we have 2 first-round picks, a 2nd, 2 thirds, a 5th, 2 sixths and a 7th. So we've got 9 picks all together. We're not allowed to do any trades. We're not doing any of that yet. We're just going to go, if we get the 9 picks, roughly where they are, who are we going to take? Now, before we start this, obviously, we need to decide where we're drafting. So I've had us drafting 3, because despite how bad this season is, I still believe we can sneak a win and finish better than the Texans and the Jags, who look absolutely terrible. So I've had us starting at 3. I don't know about you, Ryan. Where have you had us drafting?
I've matched it. I've gone to 3. I think we can scrape out two crappy wins this year. I think 2 wins is probably good enough for 3rd.
I know exactly why you've done that as well, because I think it's all about the first player that we're going to draft possibly, and the ramifications of where we're doing it. So this is it. The Roar Lions College Podcast half-season mock draft. So we're going to start with round 1, pick 3 we're both going for. Ryan, I will allow you the honours first. Who are you picking with the 3rd pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, as of what you've seen so far in college football this year?
This decision for me was easy. We're going to take a guaranteed exciting playmaker in back end of the play, and that is the Notre Dame safety, Kyle Hamilton. He is a freak athlete, and I've also looked at probably none of our safeties other than Tracy Walker are coming back. He's a natural fit to literally be a day 1 starter. And even in the losses of Notre Dame games, when they've looked bad, he has been a beacon of light, shining hope on that back end, and that's something we need.
Yep, I absolutely agree. This probably will be the only one that we agree on, but I want us to pick at 2 or 3 because I want us to have a more realistic chance of getting Kyle Hamilton. The guy is a game changer. He's athletically different, as you've already said. He's a ball hawk. He's everything that the Lions secondary needs. And if Tracy Walker carries on with his rich vein of form this year, you pair them 2 together, all of a sudden your secondary is looking a hell of a lot better. And spoiler alert, I've not stopped at safety this year. I'm going to make it even better. But we'll move on. So we're both picking Kyle Hamilton at 3. Now, the next pick we've got, this is subject to where we believe the position is as well. It's the LA Rams 1st round pick. I've got us picking at 30. Where have you got us picking at, Ryan?
I picked 29 to 30, yeah. Like I said, those last 3 picks, 4 picks.
Okay, so we're at the same. So I'm going to go first this time. So I've gone safety with my first pick. I'm going defense again. This time I'm going edge, and this is a guy I've already mentioned a few times on here, and this is George Karlaftis. He is the edge player from Purdue. Now this edge class, unlike last year, is absolutely stacked, and the reason I'm going safety then edge, not edge first, is I believe that the edge quality you'll get at the end of the first is better than what you'll get with safety. And Karlaftis is a difference maker. He's a game wrecker through 6 games this year. He's got 17 solo tackles, 5 assisted tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 8 quarterback hits, 2 pass breakups, and a million pressures. Well, maybe not a million pressures, but he's got a lot. This guy is a game-wrecking game changer, and to walk away with Kyle Hamilton and him in the first round, this defense would be so much better, absolutely instantaneously. So with my second first round pick, it's George Karlaftis, the edge from Purdue. Ryan, where have you gone with your second first round pick?
For my second first round pick, I'm going to the University of Ohio State. I am taking the best deep threat wide receiver currently in college football. That's Mr. Chris Olave. He could very well have declared last year, like some thought he would, but he, for me, could be the deep threat that the Lions are missing. Like I say, we don't have the quarterback yet, but currently we don't have a guy that can get behind defenses. He's someone that has become CJ Stroud's best friend. He was also there for Justin Fields, taking the roof off of defenses. Like I say, double-digit deep touchdowns, like I say, between the last few years. He is someone that puts up 900 to 1,000 yards a season. He's very trustworthy. He's got that savvy route running. He can beat you from the line of scrimmage. He gets in behind defensive backs. And when you drop it in the breadbasket, he's got the ability to finish and get to the end zone. Like, he is part of one of a dangerous, probably maybe best threat core of weapons. But I feel like we've got the underneath guys now in Detroit. I wanted someone that can go deep, go long, go quick. So I've gone with Chris Olave to build for the future and get all those outside strong guys.
So there you have it with the Rams pick. I've gone Karlaftis and edge. Ryan has gone Olave and wide receiver. So as we've both picked 3, this actually works quite easy, because then we'll be picking next at 35 in round 2. Ryan, back to you. You go first. Where are you going with your round 2 pick?
Now, I'm going with a pick that's very raw. Like, say, if anyone knows who the Liberty Flames are, they know that they've got one of the most dynamic dual threat quarterbacks in football. That is Malik Willis. He is top 10 in quarterback rushing this year. He's dynamic. Like I say, he gets design play calls, but when the play breaks down, he scrambles very well. He gets a rushing touchdown in most games. His arm needs work. And I think because of the remaining schedule, he may slide a little. So in the second round, he's got very good value. He's a young man. He's got a nice 6'3" frame, 215 pounds. He's got a nice little arm on him. I think he can sit a year, which will do him really good. He runs a Liberty offense that's been FBS for a few years now, but they've exploded. They have adjusted to top flight football like no one else has. Like say, his accuracy does worry me occasionally. Like say, in their most recent loss, he did throw an ugly 3-interception game. But other than that, he's kept it very clean this year. He passes, he moves the ball very efficiently. And I feel like he is the future of the league. He's built in that Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen build, strong dual threat quarterback. And I want the Lions to move away from the pocket passer.
See, I like how we're thinking here. We're thinking along similar lines. I have also gone quarterback at the start of round 2. So whereas Ryan's gone with Malik Willis, and I've mentioned him a lot this year, and I fully believe in him, I'm drafting Carson Strong, the quarterback from Nevada, with my round 2 pick. Through 6 games, he's thrown 1,990 yards, 16 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. This guy is Josh Allen 2.0. His pocket, outside the pocket, he may not be the greatest rusher in the world. Indeed, he does very little of it, but he has the best arm of any quarterback at the top end of this draft. The power he generates is second to none, and his ability to see the passes is just second to none as well. I mean, I just absolutely love what he brings to the table. You've seen what Josh Allen does to the Bills' offense. He just makes it tick so fluidly, and Carson Strong can be that guy now, like pretty much every other quarterback in this draft. Accuracy is where the issue is, but if you sit him enough, give him chance to progress, to learn the game a bit, maybe not start him in your first year, you're going to have a hell of a guy on your hands. He's going to take a bit of developing, but I fully believe that he's going to be a great asset going forward. And, you know, we can roll with Goff for one more year. Carson's got a year on the books, and then he's our guy moving forward, because our team is going to be a hell of a lot more developed by then. So, interesting. We've both gone quarterback at the start of the second. Now we'll move our way right down to round 3. We'll be picking about 67th. I'm going to go first this one, and this was a pick I didn't think I'd make, but having a look at roughly where people are ranked at the moment, and with him sat there, I've gone offensive guard with our first round 3 pick, and this was another guy I mentioned the other week when we did Ferg's challenge, looking for players who might impress us a little bit. I've gone away and done some tape watching on him. He's part of a very feared offensive line at Boston College, and that is Zion Johnson, the offensive guard. This guy is an absolute wrecking machine, especially in the running game. He is built for the running game, but he has the athleticism and the dynamicism to learn in the passing game as well. We need a guard. I love, Vitai's had a really good year. I enjoy what he's done, but on the money he's on, it's not worth it. I think that we need to take the hit next year. I believe we have a cheaper out on Vitai next year. Let's install our next guy there, and that offensive line is going to be fearsome going forward. So, for me, it makes it a bit of an easier one. I've gone Zion Johnson, offensive guard, Boston College. I'd love him at the start of round 3 just to really complete that offensive line. Ryan, where have you gone with pick 67?
I've decided to double down on wide receiver quite early. I've gone with a name that not everyone's going to know. It's Eric Izukanma. It's a wide receiver for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now, this guy brings something different. He's not the actual necessarily deep threat, but this guy is very efficient on a bad offense. He's making plays without a good quarterback, because Shook and Colombi have not been great in Texas Tech. But this man, over the last 3 years, is averaging 16.3 yards a reception on average. So he is a good middle to range threat. He's also this year got 10 carries in a running, 10 average carries per running game. So he's got 30 yards on 3 carries and a touchdown. He's used in jet sweeps. He runs reverses. So he's a nice 6'3", leanish build. So he's someone that can play on the outside, but you can motion him in. Like you say, you can motion him out. You can take the ball as a carrier, so he's got good hands. Like you say, he's having a nice year. He's got, say, 2,000 career yards. His longest touchdown this year is 75 yards. So he got a burner reception. So when required, he's got good yards after the carry if needs be. I think he's going to be a nice option. It could be one of the middling rounds, but it could be another option outside. I trust him to be someone that could put on the opposite side of the field to Olave, and he's going to go under the radar because Texas Tech are not having a good year. But I've watched him. He's fun and dynamic weapon.
Interesting. I mean, when I came into this one, I thought I'd be going defense quite early, but I've split 2 and 2 so far, and you've gone 3 guys on the offense, so that's interesting to see. But no doubt that we need help at wide receiver, so there are quite a few guys. It's interesting to see that. So that's the start of round 3. Now obviously we've got a round 3 comp to come, presumably for Kenny Golladay. I believe this one would be. I don't exactly know where that's going to be. It's probably going to be towards the end of the 3rd round, so I'll come straight back to you. Right, your turn. Where have you gone with the round 3 comp pick?
Well, great minds think alike. I've also picked up an offensive guard because I expect the Lions to also ship out Vaitai and Logan Stenberg. Well, I don't know if the guy even really exists. Is he a real person? We haven't seen him yet. I don't know if he is. I have gone for Jackson Kirkland from the Washington Huskies. He's started the last 2 years as left tackle. He's a 6'6" brawler, but he's got nice footwork, decent athleticism. He projects more as a guard, like kick him out to the other side as well, like get him off the backside. But I think he's someone that has got good strength on the outside. He can work his handwork and get it round and clear a nice edge for the pocket. I think he's going to be someone that is going to be a nice fit and hopefully complete the edge of that defensive line, because the pieces are all kind of there now. But I feel like as a guard, we've had, like, say, we've tried with Ty, we've had, like, Nelson, Skipper. No one's really holding it down, but this young man has got a big, long frame, and there's a lot there to work with.
It's interesting. We do seem to be having some similar thoughts to this. I like this. You know, we're all watching a lot, but you know, when it comes to the Lions, I think there's a little bit of a pattern emerging here. Obviously, Brad Holmes is going to go straight out the window and do something different, but I enjoy seeing this anyhow. So you've gone guard with the third round comp. For the third round comp, I've gone back onto the defense, and I'm going to be plucking a guy from the Auburn Tigers, and that is their linebacker, Owen Papo. Now, obviously, we're going to need linebackers this year. I probably would have liked to have been picking one a little higher than third, but there's that many issues to sort out. Owen Papo is a hell of a good linebacker. I mean, he's had a great start to this season. He racked up 15 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, few passes defended, a sack in there as well. He's missed the last couple of games with an injury. It's nothing major, but this is a rapid linebacker. He's great at rushing the passer. He's got a few quarterback hits already this year, but you know, he's good in coverage. He's got the speed, he's got the strength, and I think he's just genuinely one of the linebackers who is overlooked a bit, because when I was looking through the rankings when I was doing this, I was surprised to see him down there, and I'm not sure that he will be, but the experts say he's going to be, so that's where I'm going to go. Linebacker Owen Papo for Auburn, and that's for the round 3 comp pick. So in my first 5, I've got a safety, I've got an edge, I've got a linebacker, which obviously the defense needs all of those, and then a quarterback and an offensive guard. Now there's going to be a little bit of a drop down here after that. We'll not be picking again till round 5, roughly pick 131, because obviously we gave away the 4th for Derek Barnes to move up for him. So round 5, 131. It's my turn to go first, I believe. So I said that I was going to not take just one safety, but I'm going to take 2, and this is the guy whose name you'll get fed up of me mentioning on this show. He's roughly a round 5 pick, although he really shouldn't be, and this is Reed Blankenship, the safety from Middle Tennessee. Now, through just 6 games this year, the guy has 34 solo tackles, 21 assisted tackles. That's 55 combined in just 6 games. He's got 4 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. 1 was for a 90-yard touchdown. He scooped and ran the length of the pitch. No one could catch him. And he's got 3 pass breakups there as well. I've mentioned this is just like the quintessential guy who can do it all. I mean, as a safety, 4 tackles for loss. He's got fumbles on running backs in there. You know, he's just got everything you need. Athletically, he's just completely superior to anyone and everyone else around him. I keep saying Mathbomb should hopefully love him in terms of that. The only reason he's moving so far sort of down this draft is there've been issues with injuries in the past, and obviously there is some fine-tuning to his game needed as well. Because Middle Tennessee's not the biggest school in the world, but he's had a healthy season. He's been playing. There's been no injury worries. So from that point of view, he's proving what he needs to do. And if we take him, if we take Hamilton and add him to Tracy Walker, then I tell you right now, in 2 years, we're going to have one of the best safety corps in the NFL. I fully and truly believe that. That's how much I like this guy, and that's how good Hamilton's going to be as well. Round 5, Ryan, where have you gone?
I've gone in the same vein, but I'm picking up a cornerback. This kid is one of the most efficient and high-profile active of the last 3-4 years. This man, Riley Moss, he is the cornerback of Iowa, who would have probably been able to clamp down David Bell had he been able to play the other day, but missed through injury. He has got 3 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in the last 3 years. He's a little undersized at 5'10", 5'11", but his ball instincts are fantastic. He's also broken up another 14 passes in those 3 years. He has a fantastic nose for the ball. He never lets anyone get too far away from him. He reads hands and hips really well. And he's another guy that I want to change this defense into start generating turnovers. So this is a guy that may not be the strongest, may need to work on the tackling, like say, taking the right angles, but fantastic nose for the ball. I think he could be really good value in these middle to late rounds just because he's a bit undersized. But I'd love to see this young man, like say, carry on this rich vein of form going on to NFL. And who doesn't love one of those like rare white rhino white cornerbacks? Everyone loves them. It could be one of the next best in the game because they're so few and far between. But no, I really like what I've seen from Riley Moss.
Very good. I'll come straight back to you then. So we're moving on to round 6 now with 2 picks there. We'll be picking roughly 163. So you've gone corner in 5. Where have we gone in 6?
I've gone totally off beat here. Like you say, I've decided I want to pick up another tight end because in the last few weeks it appears teams are working out how we use TJ Hawkinson. So I'm going down to the FCS level. I'm going to North Dakota State Bison and their behemoth tight end Noah Gindorf. This man is 6'6". He has got a huge frame, long arms and a radius. He's not been used effectively, but he has nearly every catch for a touchdown. In the last few years, he has, I think, about 14 receptions. He has nearly 10 touchdowns in his career. He offers something where we struggle in the red zone. There's someone that's got such a big frame and a big size. He's quite agile. He's got a nice turn of pace. And I think he would work nicely in 2 and 10 in sets for the Lions. I think he's going to be someone that's got a really big upside. It could very well go undrafted, but I like what there is to work with there. He's got great hands. I think he could be a really good threat at the next level in the red zone. Someone that will just take a bit of pressure off TJ when needs be.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the need for a tight end is there, and if we can find some value later on, I certainly wouldn't be against going for that. I think I had James Mitchell, was it from Virginia Tech, but he's absolutely messed his knee up, so that one went out the window. But I kind of realised by this point that I'd not gone wide receiver at all now. Obviously, I'm one of those, I believe your wide receivers and your quarterbacks come last, and there's other areas you need to sort out first. But I have gone wide receiver for this one, and this is a guy who has been playing for a team who have surprised everybody this year in how well they've done, and he's also a homegrown lad. I'm going to Michigan State, I'm going wide receiver, and I'm going for Speedy Naylor, or as he's known, Jalen Naylor. Now, one thing we've not had in this Lions receiver room for a little while is a true burner. This guy, he's called Speedy for a reason. He's having a really, really good year. He's got such good pace and separation skills. He's just seems to have come alive in this Mel Tucker-based offense that they've got running there, and I just really like what he brings to the table, especially for a late round flyer. I know we've got a few already, but Cephas is doing well. He's shown that the value is there, and I just really like what Jalen Naylor brings to the table. So I've gone wide receiver, and that is where I'm sticking for round 6, and I believe he could be a very good part of the offense going forward. I think I'd like to see us, if we're going to go and get a receiver this year, a big one, I'd like to see us maybe pay a little for one, a better one. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, Jalen Naylor, round 6, Michigan State. Next we've got the comp. Obviously we've got a round 6 comp. I believe this one will be for Agnew, I could be wrong, or for Jared Davis. But we are projected one, and this is another guy who was on my to-watch list. In fact, we did your round 6 one, did we, Rye? Sorry, I'm just making sure I didn't miss one.
I've not done my comp yet, no.
Alright, I'll do mine and then we'll do yours. So this is another guy who's on my to watch list, and if I can get him down in round 6, which is where he's projected at the minute, I'll be ecstatic. I'm going linebacker again, and I'm going for Edefwan Ulofoshio from the Washington Huskies. Now, Washington produce great defenders. We got Levi from there. I mean, obviously we've not seen too much of him so far, but he's had the back issue. They're slowly working him in, but he's a really good defender. He's going to be a great defender going forward, and I'm going back to the well there. Ulofoshio is a tackling machine. I think he went for about another 14 tackles this week. He's had 18 in a game so far this season. He had a really good outing against the Michigan Wolverines. That was televised not so long back, including a really great goal line stop where he just completely dived over the entire pile and took out a running back in midair, stop him getting in. It was a fourth down stop. But this guy is something we need. We need a guy who can tackle in there. Yes, he's a little raw. He needs to develop finer aspects of his game. But I mean, this is what you get in round 6. You want a guy who knows the fundamentals first. He can tackle. He can tackle well, which a lot of our defenders can't. And our linebacker room needs someone like him to provide good depth in there. So I've got Papo in the 3rd. I think he's going to be a really good linebacker. I've got Olafosio with my 6th round comp. I'm quite happy with what I've done with the linebacking core there. I would be bringing someone in free agency, a veteran who's going to be there for the foreseeable to help out, but I'm happy if I've done that. Your round 6 comp, Rye.
Yeah, I'm going to a person I have also mentioned previously on this podcast a few weeks ago. This is a smaller score guy. This is from the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. This is the safety Sterling Weatherford, who's actually becoming quite a stud in these smaller ranks. Like I say, he's a 4-year veteran, so he's a leader on that defense. He has 182 career tackles, featuring in 2019 61 solo. He had 61 solo tackles in just one season. He is the heart and soul of this defense. He's racked up another 18 passes defended, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 interceptions. He's 6'3", so he's got a fantastic build, a solid 100 kilos, so he's got some muscle and a bit of weight behind him, but he's all over the field. There isn't one thing he's excellent at, but he can tackle. He's got a nice nose for the ball. Like you say, he's a leader on that back end. He can call plays. You trust him to have these kind of things. They're not the biggest school. They're not the most successful, but they stand out nicely. Like I say, he shows up on tape every week. And I think projected rounds 5 to 7, I think he'd be a really nice addition to a safety room that if it's cleared out, like I say, he's worth a flyer on this late round because he's got a lot of upside, and I expect him to make his presence known with hard tackles on special teams as well.
I love it. I was expecting our drafts to be entirely different, but in our ways of thinking, we've both gone for a later round safety. We've both taken Hamilton first. We've both gone quarterback at the start of the 2nd. We've both gone guard. I'm quite intrigued by this. Please tell me you've gone kicker in the 7th just to wind this one up.
I have, yes.
Oh, yes.
People think it's crazy, but look at like Rodrigo Blankenship, like say Daniel Carson. Kickers are getting drafted a lot these days, and for me to now end of the season, like I trust this kid. It's Nick Skiba from the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, 4-year starter, never missed an extra point, and like I say, a 90.8% career kicking average. He's one of the active current leaders in field goal percentage for his whole time in college. He's very trusted. He kicks in all sorts of conditions out in Seattle and North Carolina. So he's used to outdoor kicking. He can kick in the wind, the poor weather. I just trust this guy. I don't know if the Lions right now have a kicker because we've worked out so many. Is Seibert the man? I don't know, but I'm willing to throw 7th out there and try find the next Hansen or Prater for the franchise, but it seems like a very trusted, reliable kicker.
I love it. I've gone for kicker in the 7th as well because I think it's it is a need for us, and I think if you want to get a head start on some of the better guys coming out, then it's a round 7 pick. We've got plenty of ammunition up top to get the elite guys we need. Let's get the special teams sorted. I have diverted in terms of who I go for, though. I've gone for Gabe Burkich. He is the kicker for the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, this guy is money from distance. He's been clutch this season. I think there's 2 games at least he's won for the Sooners in some of these closer ones. He is a guy who just seems to have no fear about him. He's got a huge leg. He's got a very good career rating. I think when I did he was another on my list for Ferg a few weeks back. I think it's like 120 straight extra point conversions. He's not missed one in his entire career, and he's about 5 or 6 field goals. But I love this guy. When you're playing for a big team like that and the game is on your shoulders, there's a lot of pressure there. Just does not seem to phase him at all. So for that reason, Gabe Burkich, the kicker from Oklahoma, rounds out my draft in round 7. So if anyone's not seen it all, I'll quickly go through ours. So I'll read mine out. Ryan can read his out. So round 1, Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. George Karlaftis, edge from Purdue. Round 2, I've got Carson Strong, the quarterback from Nevada. Round 3, I've got Zion Johnson, the offensive guard from Boston College, and Owen Papo, the linebacker from Auburn. Round 5, Reed Blankenship, the safety from Middle Tennessee. He's my Richie Grant this year, deal with it. Round 6, I've got Jalen Naylor, the wide receiver from Michigan State, and Edafwan Olafosio, the linebacker from the Washington Huskies. And round 7 end with Gabe Burkich, the kicker from Oklahoma. Ryan, just do a recap of your guys you've done.
In round 1, I've got a safety, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, and the wide receiver, Chris Olave from Ohio State. In round 2, I have the quarterback, Malik Willis from the Liberty Flames. In round 3, I've got Eric Izukanma for the Texas Tech Raiders, and the offensive guard, Jackson Kirkland from the Washington Huskies. Down to round 5, I've got a very underrated cornerback, Riley Moss from the Iowa Hawkeyes. Into round 6, Noah Gindorf, the Man Mountain tight end from North Dakota State, and then his small school stud safety, Sterling Weatherford, say that 3 times twice, from Miami, and then I'm ending up, like say, on a kicker, Nick Skiba, round 7, from the Creepy Demon Deacons.
Just to finish this off, just maybe a quick honourable mention for one guy you wanted but you couldn't fit in.
I do like what I've seen from Treylon Burks. He started very slowly, 3 or 4 weeks, got to Ole Miss, and then he just exploded. A guy shouldn't be that big and that fast, because for 6'3", he's got some pounds on him. He's got a big, bulky frame.
Yeah, he's going to be a hell of a receiver, and he'd be one of mine too. I'd want to fit in here, but I just think the defense has to take precedence this year, and I have to bite on a wide receiver. I think the guy I wanted most, I want a corner really if I could, and that would be Mikael Wright from Oregon. I just love him so much as a cornerback prospect, and you're probably going to get him in round 2 or 3. So you're going to get great value for him there. I think he just instantly upgrades our corner room, but I just couldn't fit him in. I need Carson Strong in there. So we'll see how it goes on. But yeah, that is just about everything for this week. We're going to obviously keep a very close eye on these half-season mock drafts. At the end of the season, as I say, it's about 7 weeks, and then the college season is all done and dusted. We will revisit this, and we will do a fresh one, and we will combine them to see how many of these guys we've kept and how many we've changed our mind on. But is there anything else for the show this week, Rye, while we're still here?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Like I say, I think it's been a good week. Like I say, bowl eligible teams now winning, like you say, and now we'll turn our focus to very soon the college committee playoff. Those all those rich folk that make silly decisions and have biases, they will start to sit down and talk about the playoffs, because we're getting close to teams punching their ticket. Like I say, when you get towards double digits, like I say, we're getting there now. Like you say, there's teams that have got playoff aspirations.
Absolutely. We are no doubt entering the business end of the season now. The college playoff scene is going to take shape. The bowl games are going to start to take shape. We can maybe speculate on some of the good fixtures we'd like to see in there. But as always, if you've got anything you want us to particularly look at, player-wise, position group-wise, game-wise, let us know. If you've watched the podcast before, you see we do put as much effort in as we can to answering those, and hopefully you are more the wiser for some of these sections we do. Obviously, this has been our first live broadcast this week, so we hope that everything's gone alright in regards to that. If we've not had a chance to chat with you all much, it's just because I wanted to make sure that this stream has run absolutely smoothly, and we'll get the hang of it more as I go along. So thanks everyone who has joined us this week. We do really appreciate it. I mean, this college podcast, it gets over 100 listens a week through YouTube, through the audio. I wasn't expecting it to be that popular straight away, just 2 of us over here talking about it, but you've really taken it to heart with us, so we appreciate that, and we hope you enjoy obviously what we do with this. So our next episodes tomorrow, we'll be going back to the Roar of the Lions, our main podcast. Number 9 and the Rams are up next. We're going to LA. We're going to see Matt again. There's a lot of people thinking we might take a little bit of a hammer in this weekend, but you never know. Stranger things have happened in life, so come join us tomorrow night. It's going to be myself doing it again, because Matt is away doing a few little bits and bobs, but the streams ran well tonight, so hopefully that one is going to run just fine as well. Come and join us. Let us know what you think about the Rams game, what you think about Matt Stafford. If there's anything you want us to include in that show again, then just let us know. And then with the college football podcast, we will be back in a week. That is the 27th of October on the Wednesday. We will probably be doing this live from now on, so we hope you can come and join us for that again. There's going to be another great weekend of action to talk about, and no doubt, and probably a lot more upsets as well. But if there's anything you specifically want us to look at, our show is open for that one, so just let us know. Just go through the socials quickly before we finish. So you can find us all over the social universe. So on YouTube, you can find us at Roar of the Lions UK, Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, it's ROTL_UK, all in caps. On Facebook, our page, Roar of the Lions UK, our Facebook group, Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. And immediately after we've done this, we are about to go into a little meeting, and we may have a very big announcement to come out for you soon, something very exciting happening in the podcast's future, so do keep an eye out for that. And also remember to join us on Sunday. We'll be doing the live tweet streams as usual as the Rams come to town. That is very enjoyable. I do that myself, so come join us, come chat. We're always there. Is there anything else you want to add before we finish this week, Ryan?
No, like you say, it's going to be very interesting this Sunday. There's going to be a lot of dynamics going on. Like you say, Stafford v Goff. It's not very often that you get teams meeting up that have directly swapped quarterbacks. That's just very rare in the NFL. So there's going to be a lot of talking points. So it's going to be interesting for on the field and off the field reasons, like I say. So it could be interesting.
And we need to try and find some Kool-Aid from somewhere to inject some positivity in the show. I will go ahead and try and find some. And don't forget, if you want your first action for the college football this week, Appalachian State Coastal Carolina is tonight. I'm putting my guarantee on this that it is going to be a barnstormer. So if you're going to stay up and watch it, please do. If it's bad, don't blame me, but that is just what this college season is like. But yeah, it just remains for me to thank Ryan. Hopefully we have a much better weekend sporting wise, and we can come back with big grins on our faces next week, chat about good college football, and hopefully a stupendous Lions win. But until then, it just remains for me to say thank you to everyone who has watched with us this evening. We really do appreciate you all. Means a lot to us that you're sitting here to watch the show, so thanks ever so much. But until then, One Pride.
One Pride.